to another edition of Evan and Tiki. Very, very busy show. A true examination on what the Knicks can actually do at the trade deadline. The Kansas City Chiefs have to answer a lot of questions around the narrative that the officials helped them, and a lot of blowback on Sean Morash and Tommy Lugauer and even me for some of the things we said on yesterday's show. We will address it later. Now, I know that there are going to be some Giant fans that are going to accuse me of starting a civil war again. I am not. I'm giving an honest IFO opinion on this anniversary of the Giants beating the Patriots for the second time in the Super Bowl. As you may have heard in Marco's update, tomorrow night we're going to find out if Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer or not. I know that's been a very popular debate around these words for a long time. Hall of Famer, not a Hall of Famer, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to give you a very simple opinion. And it's very interesting to get the perspective of one Tiki Barber, who played for the guys I'm about to mention, and that of Sean and Tommy, who are diehard Giant fans. I'm just an innocent IFO. I'm just stating an opinion. But to me, Tom Coughlin deserves more credit than even Eli Manning for the great success that the Giants had in the mid-2000s. And so Eli Manning getting into the Hall of Fame tomorrow night, fine. But there feels something empty about Tom Coughlin not being there first.
Yeah.
Am I crazy, Tate?
No, you're not crazy. And the fact that Tom just keeps getting looked over for that honor, because technically coaches have to be inducted as contributors. And so it's a different committee than the nominating committee that puts in, my brother and everybody else that's gone in over the last couple of years. But it almost feels like the coach, unless you are like Bill Belichick, who had 7 or 6 Super Bowls, or actually really 8 if you count the 2 with the New York Giants, and was beyond a doubt a Hall of Fame coach, and he'll probably get in next year when he's eligible after 2 years out of the league. The coaches kind of get screwed. They really do. Because you think about the 2 that just recently got in, the most recent coaches that got in, Coach Cowher and who was the other one? Whoever it was, there was 2 of them that went in right around that time. It was because of the pandemic. Right? It was, we didn't hold a Hall of Fame ceremony. Let's do this extra dive and let some more people in because we missed one, and coaches got extra representation. Bill Cowher is a Hall of Fame head coach.
Sure.
There's no doubt about it. I don't know if he would have gotten in because of the way that the process works for coaches. And we talked about it yesterday. Assistant coaches have no chance of getting in. They're not even considered. But the fact that Tom Coughlin doesn't get the love from the Hall of Fame that he deserves for turning around 2 franchises. One was the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2, the Giants didn't need really turning around, but they needed that extra step to get to championship viability. And he did it and won 2 championships. And so the fact that he's not even in the conversation is frustrating to anybody who played for him.
Well, and also, this is one of those things, and this happened to me yesterday when I was talking about Juan Soto being better than Francisco Lindor. That's not a knock on Francisco Lindor. I'm just merely saying Juan Soto is better. When I look at what Eli did here, and I look at what Coach Coughlin did here, I put Tom Coughlin, call me crazy, I put him ahead of Eli Manning. I got to tell you, bro.
But the credit always will belong to the man in the arena, so to speak. And Eli did it. Let's face it.
So did Tom.
I know he did.
He was fired 10 times.
But it's less tangible. It's less discussable what Tom Coughlin did versus what Eli did. We could look at the playoff run in 2007. We can look at this Super Bowl in 2011, and you beat one of the greatest teams twice. The dynasty of that generation, you beat them twice, and you saw Eli exceptional in those moments. So how can you not recognize?
I do recognize it. Absolutely.
And it's a great story. It's like one of those narratives that I honestly used to hate, but now I'm starting to understand it because I'm understanding what the Hall of Fame actually is. It's a museum to tell the stories of greatness that happened in this league. And can you tell the story of the NFL without Eli Manning? The answer is no.
Can you tell the story of the NFL without Tom Coughlin?
Yes.
He coached the 2 teams that you're talking about.
But nobody talks about the coaching. People talk about the players.
We talk about Bill Belichick.
Of course, because Bill Belichick felt like he had his hands on all of it.
Right.
Like Bill Belichick the Rams Super Bowl, whichever one that was, the lowest scoring Super Bowl in Super Bowl history, where it was, what was that, 10-3 or 13-3?
It was after the 2018 season,
right,
yes.
13-3, I think was the final of that game. Right? That was purely defensive, schemed. We're going to grind this thing out. We're going to take the air out of the ball. We're going to slow it down and run the hell out of the clock. And we're going to beat a team that was one of the highest scoring teams in NFL history by not letting them do what they do.
Right.
That was clearly coaching. Right? Just like Spags. When we watch Spags dismantle team after team after team in the postseasons, and obviously in the regular seasons, but in the postseasons as well, when the teams are better, and then Super Bowls and 2 consecutive and 3 overall, really 4 overall if you count the one with the New York Giants. It's just like you can see sometimes defensive coaching. It's hard to see he's the figurehead. He brings the discipline. He brings the culture. And that's what Tom did.
And he also brought the winning. I mean, he was the coach of a team that won 2 Super Bowls.
I understand.
He was the coach of the quarterback that may get enshrined tomorrow night, or at least announced that he's getting enshrined.
You're right.
Like, that matters. He also comes from an offensive background. So you tell me, doesn't he deserve some credit for developing Eli Manning? Like, maybe a little bit? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a tiny bit.
I can only speak from personal experience.
Right.
Tom Coughlin forced accountability. The reason I was a very good player before he got there with Jim Fossil and Sean Payton and all those guys, right? I didn't become a great player until Tom Coughlin forced the little things. And it's marginal, but those marginal differences make an enormous impact on day in and day out success and failure. So Tom Coughlin is absolutely responsible for that. When you think about what wins a game, it's, all right, did you call the right play in that situation? Tom's not calling plays, right? Did you bring the right zone blitz or zone dog or pressure package or whatever it may be? Tom didn't call any of those. And so he's responsible for creating the environment for this success. But when it actually came down to performing on a Sunday, Tom wasn't doing that. That was Eli.
So who do you give?
That was Strahan.
So I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to do it anyway. Who do you give more credit to? Tom or Eli? I'm putting my flag in the sand. To me, it's Tom Coughlin. I'll take whatever slings the Giant fan wants to give me. It's not a knock on Eli. It's Tom Coughlin.
For the Super Bowls?
For the multiple Super Bowl championships.
Eli was the Super Bowl MVP twice.
And Tom
how do you not give the credit to the quarterback?
Tom was the coach.
I understand that.
Like, that doesn't matter now?
Okay, but what makes great coaches? Great players.
And what makes great players?
Rising to the occasion.
No, I'd argue that a lot of great players, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, who we're all talking about as the GOAT, or Tom Brady, who was talked about as the GOAT, who coached them?
Well, I'll tell you this.
Who coached them?
Pat Mahomes is a little bit different because a lot of the stuff he does is not coachable. Right? Maybe he practices that stuff, but you can't coach somebody to do the things that he does on the football field, right? The improvisation, I'm keeping this play alive, and as soon as I see a window, I'm making that. You're not teaching that. That's just him being a superior, above the X's and O's ball player. I'm talking about Pat Mahomes now. I mean, maybe Tom Brady had that coached into him a little bit because it was so much of just execute, don't make mistakes, execute, and then you win that way, and you win like very closely on the margins. Because when you think about it, that's how all their Super Bowls were won. Right? It was Adam Vinatieri, who is also on this Hall of Fame ballot, and I think absolutely deserves to be the next kicker into the Hall of Fame, because they don't win those games without Adam Vinatieri lining up and kicking game-winning field goals.
No question.
So are we going to credit the special teams coach? Are we crediting the guy who actually had to line up and kick the ball through the upright?
Well, my point is we credit both. And it's weird to me that tomorrow night there's a very good chance, even though Peter King says, you may have heard it in the update by Marco Belletti, that he's skeptical that Eli's going to get in for his bout. We'll see.
That's going to be really odd with Eli hosting.
No, I know. He's hosting the NFL Honors tomorrow night, which is where they make this announcement. And yes, it will be awkward if Eli's there and it's like, oh yeah, you're not getting in. And by the way, if he doesn't get in this year, he may struggle because next year Drew Brees is eligible. I think both guys are Hall of Famers.
They definitely are both Hall of Famers.
I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing that it is odd to me that Eli gets in and Tom is still waiting, and God knows how long Tom's going to wait.
I know.
Because when I view that Giants' success, and I was here talking about it every day with Joe, and why I say that is because I remember Tom Coughlin being fired 100 times. Mm-hmm. He was fired 150 times by all of us. That matters.
But that's also New York. That's also just the rhetoric that happens in a town that is frustrated by not winning championships. I'm not saying being successful. I'm saying not winning championships.
Yeah, okay.
They will want to fire you. You can be good every year and not win, and they want you done. They want you gone. Look at the Yankees. We talk about this every year.
I get it.
Yankees. And so that's a product of being in this town.
And he dealt with it.
Of course he dealt with it because
obviously.
He didn't care.
Well, good for him.
I mean, it's like you have a thick skin. Is it affecting your daily process? What, I don't know, Joe Beat Writer is writing about you? No. Or Joe Fan is writing about you? Absolutely not. And so the fact that he was not oblivious, but let's say deaf, he just let it fall on deaf ears, that's a credit to Tom Coughlin because not a lot of coaches can handle that. A lot of coaches, and we've seen them, right? We've seen them. They start listening. They start being affected by negativity. They start being affected by what people say, and they get pissed off about it, like it has anything to do with anything. But it changes their emotional impact on their team and on their perception in their market. So I give Tom credit a lot of credit because he didn't care.
No, absolutely. It's funny. I listen to everything you say, and during the course of this conversation, and I admit it's sort of awkward, right? Because why are we picking between two great people? I mean, two guys who are Hall of Famers, two guys who are legends. They brought 2 championships to this town. I'm not picking between the two of them. I'm merely saying, boy, I look back on this. Tom Coughlin, I almost give him a little bit more credit, and I'd want him in the Hall of Fame before Eli Manning. But one thing I don't know, because I'm not a player, is how much coaches impact players, right? And
of course.
You answer that.
They impact you a lot.
And you know what you said? You said it. Your words. It's very interesting. You said, I was a good player, but Tom Coughlin helped me become a great player.
Right.
Right?
Of course.
Doesn't that prove my point? That's the impact of coaching.
Yeah.
And so that's for you personally, which I respect. Isn't that the same with Eli Manning?
Yeah, but
what is he without Tom Coughlin?
But it could also grind it down. I mean, who did it? It was actually Gerald Ingram, my running back coach.
Right.
And who opened holes for me all these years? It was Snee and Deal and O'Hara and all those guys, right? Richie Soyberg, Kareem McKenzie, and why were they so good? Because of Pat Flaherty, the offensive line coach. Like when you start thinking about all of these things that make an individual great and Hall of Fame worthy, it's really hard to just pinpoint it on one person.
No, I agree. And that's why I think when we talk about coaches, at least with me, he's the head coach. And when you're the head coach, you're in charge of everything. It's like a president, so your entire administration, right? So I kind of view it that way. And I wonder, and I know we'll never get the answer to this, what is Eli Manning if he isn't drafted by the New York Football Giants and coached under Tom Coughlin and have the teammates he had, including yourself, by the way? What is he? What is he? And that's why I put Tom first. Sean, you with me on this?
Absolutely not. It's Eli first. And I love Tom. And this is not, I hate when we do this and it's like, actually, it's not a knock on Coughlin. For everything Tiki said, Tiki played for the man. I understand all that. Here's the truth.
Oh, he was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But he helped make you great.
And I am sure he helped make Eli great. But the truth is, Evan, this is the nature of the sport and the nature of the beast. He was a great coach in Philadelphia, a great coach with Alex Smith. Was anybody calling Andy Reid a Hall of Famer before Patrick Mahomes got him Super Bowls?
That's a good point.
No, they didn't. Bill Belichick,
great point.
We understand the Cleveland point. What was he when Tom Brady left? Still a really good coach. Got Mac Jones to the playoffs. The Super Bowls with Tom Brady matter.
Hold on, I want to counter this real quick. What was Mark Brunell without Tom Coughlin? Because I saw a team go 14-2.
Yeah.
I saw a team go all the way to, I think it was the AFC Championship.
Right. No doubt about it. My point is...
Twice. Okay.
Mark Brunell, very good run.
Is Mark Brunell a Hall of Famer?
No. This is my point.
Okay.
Tom Coughlin got with Eli Manning, who had so many more skills and everything else than Mark Brunell, and it elevated what Tom Coughlin could do as a coach to coach a championship team. It is not fair the way the Hall of Fame is structured and kind of appreciating coaches beyond winning the Super Bowls. So that is part of the reason. But the truth is, this is, and really during his whole era, a quarterback-driven league as much as it is with the teams. And all of these coaches get their rings and get elevated if they are matched with the right coach that I'm sure, or the right quarterback, which I'm sure they coach up. Tom Coughlin is not a Hall of Famer without Eli Manning. We'll never know if Eli Manning would have been a Hall of Famer without him. But I asked you, Evan, last week, with the Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, you agreed with me that, hey, I don't think it would have worked here with either of those guys, and Eli was perfect for New York.
I stand by that, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it was only because Ben and Phil, they were just kind of they were kind of knuckleheady.
Kind of knucklehead.
Eli was even though when he was a kid, he was a grown-up. Right? He was 100% professional from day one.
100%.
And I understand that's personality, and I'm not trying to say, let's debate Eli talent-wise, but the point is...
What is the point?
Are we having this conversation about Tom Coughlin in the Hall of Fame today if he doesn't win 2 Super Bowls because he has Phillip Rivers or Ben Roethlisberger?
So explain that one more time.
We're having the Tom Coughlin Hall of Fame debate because inevitably he ended up winning those 2 Super Bowls on top of what he did with Jacksonville, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
If he doesn't have those Super Bowls because he didn't have Eli Manning and he had Roethlisberger, Rivers, and those guys and the personalities flamed out, we're not even bothering to have this conversation.
Eli Manning is coached by Robert Saleh, are we having the conversation about Eli?
That's also a good point.
It's a good point.
Thank you. I bow. Thank you.
It's a good point.
I mean, it's why the Hall of Fame is so weird because you're standing on so many people's shoulders when you get into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, no doubt.
And there's so many people who are responsible for your path. And obviously I'm talking about mom and dad and high school coach and everything else, but just the people in the NFL that it takes for one person to be great is it's daunting. Right? I'm talking medical staff. I'm talking, coaches. I'm talking trainers, physical therapists, all of that stuff. So it's hard to pinpoint it, right? And it's hard to say that one guy's deserving without acknowledging all those other people that helped them. And especially in this case, as we're not pitting, but just talking about 2 of the most important pieces for the New York Giants over the last 2 decades, Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning, you can't really see them apart from one another. It was the perfect storm for success.
Agreed.
And they both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
They both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but on Thursday night, one likely will be, and the other one may have to wait a decade. So I hate to make it Eli versus Tom Coughlin, but it sort of is. We'll get to your calls next, 888-808-1019. Plus, I have a stat that backs up my point that I give a little bit more credit to Tom Coughlin than I do the great Eli Manning. 888-808-1019.